205.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 1 of
Pilot episode.
2FriendsFighting.
2FriendsFighting.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for tuning in. My name is Robbie.
My name is Jackson.
And we obviously your co-hosts of 2FriendsFighting. A little background on the two of us. Obviously, we are two friends. Been friends for 8 years now, I'd say.
Probably around 8 years, yeah.
2000. I joined the gym in 2012.
So we met at our martial arts gym, our Muay Thai gym.
Yep.
Pound for pound.
Yep. It is located in Markham. We are two of the. I'm going to say it. We're two of the top fighters out of that gym. We are longtime training partners. We've done a lot of rounds together. I've personally had a lot of bruised eyes from this gentleman right here. But well deserved because he is actually an Ontario national champion for Muay Thai, so he's earned that title with
Ontario national champion. Is there such thing as a national provincial champion?
Was it provincials or nationals?
National.
Yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
National would be Canada.
You're right.
Yeah.
My mistake. Either way.
Get your facts straight, Robbie.
Hey.
We're already fighting. Two friends fighting.
We're already fighting. This is a great start.
So this is the pilot episode of our podcast. So we'd like to start off by telling you guys a little bit about ourselves. Rob, You want to start?
Yeah, well, like I said, we both share a passion for fitness and martial arts, and we both kind of took that into a different career where we both at one point were personal trainers.
Yep.
I still am, and I have helped a lot of people lose quite a bit of weight, whether it's through Instagram or in person. Mm-hmm. Jackson himself was also a personal trainer for a while until he shifted his career up into in teaching.
That's right. So I used to work for Good Life Fitness as a personal trainer. Wasn't for me. I loved helping people out. I loved getting people to reach their fitness goals, helping them with their just sort of mental, their personal mindset that really helps them achieve their goals. But the whole job wasn't for me. The Good Life Fitness wasn't for me. So I then switched my career goals to focus more towards teaching, just helping people out in general.
Yep.
So I've actually just recently completed my Bachelor of Education to be a certified teacher.
And that's awesome, man. And I respect that a lot, especially because for years of my life, I taught kids Muay Thai actually, only like once a week. Mm-hmm. And it was the longest hour of my week for the most part.
Yeah.
And that's teaching kids something fun like martial arts. So teachers, teachers in general, I respect them so much because to teach kids.
Be nice to your teachers.
Be nice to teachers. To teach kids for not just an hour, but like 6 hours a day, and things like math, science, whatever, boring stuff, that takes a lot, and I respect those people so much, whereas me teaching martial arts for an hour, that drove me nuts.
Yeah.
So teachers, commendable. But I want to touch on something you said earlier when you were talking about the mental aspect of helping people reach their goals, and how that is so important.
And that's really one of the main goals of this podcast, right?
Absolutely. We basically both at one point, our job has been to help motivate and inspire and educate others on setting and achieving goals.
That's right. Yeah.
And we want to be able to share our thoughts on this podcast with our listeners and or viewers. Mm-hmm. And also just see where the conversation will take us, because we're also, like I said, we're just two friends, and we're also open to suggestions as well. Say you like our podcast, you want to give us a topic to talk about, and you want to hear our opinions, please reach out to us, and we will happily address this.
And this podcast is also sort of for all those friends out there who maybe they go to pub nights or they go on friend dates that they just sort of chat away at the bar or at a restaurant, and they feel like just sort of their friends have something important to talk about, right? Mm-hmm. So we sort of wanted to share our personal past, our personal ideas, right, with everybody else. Yeah,
we just want to kind of share our opinions about certain topics, and because we think that people can benefit from that, and like I said, maybe we can inspire other people out there to make their own podcast. Because, like I said, this is our first episode. We really don't know what we're doing, but it's a fun thing. I'm actually.
So let me ask you, how are you feeling right now, Rob?
Actually, I'm having a great time. This is actually right now we're talking to a camera, but this is actually a lot of fun. This is actually a lot of fun.
It's not really any weirder than any of our regular conversations.
Not at all, actually. It's with a hint more professionalism.
And we gotta be
nasty.
we've definitely got to be honest with you guys. We almost had a little bit of a crisis on our hands shooting this first episode. Robbie, you want to tell them about that?
Robbie here, who is the most brilliant person of all time, always carries a tripod in his gym bag, except for today when he really could have used it.
Shooting the very first pilot episode of our podcast.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So right now, the camera that you guys are staring at through right now is
carefully perched
between Chris's ornaments, and we are hoping that nothing disturbs it for this podcast.
I also want to take a quick second to shout out our producer. That would be Jameson, my brother.
Yes, they are.
He's doing a great job.
He's actually a godsend, because without him, we'd have absolutely no idea how to record sound, nor have the equipment to do so. So shout out to Jameson for agreeing to help us with this and taking time out of his day to help us out with this. 100%. Thank you, Jameson.
Yeah. So I also want to talk about one more thing that we're going to be getting into on some of these episodes during the podcast. We've already talked about how we met at our Muay Thai gym. We love fighting. We're going to be going over some of the UFC fights that really interest us.
Yep.
Even boxing, if some big boxing fight comes up, like maybe a Wilder versus Fury fight, right? So can you talk about sort of just our interest in fighting in general?
Yeah, well, honestly, for me, as a kid, when I was 6 years old, I started with Taekwondo just as something that my parents put me in because I was really bad at all other sports. Yeah. And that kind of, I kept going with that till I was about 18.
I can vouch for that, everybody. He's terrible at volleyball in particular.
I'm really bad. That kept me going with my fitness career until I was about 18, where I joined P4P, or Pound for Pound, or P4P, where I met Jackson, actually. Mm-hmm. And actually, through martial arts, I found my passion for fitness. And it was also because I found fighting that I found my interest in watching the UFC events. Yeah. And find, right now, I'll tell you guys, my hero is Georges St. Pierre. I think he's a hero for a lot of Canadian fighters.
A lot of Canadians, right?
And overall across the world. He's one of the
North Americans in general, right?
He's one of the GOATs, 100%. Mm-hmm. I was always doing martial arts training, and that was it, until I kind of watched more of him, and he was doing gymnastics, weight training, everything, whatever. And that kind of also sparked my interest in overall general fitness and how it applies to your performance in sport. Yeah. Which led me to...
Sorry to interrupt, what do you make of him coming out in the kimono every time he'd run to the ring?
So I thought that was actually really cool because it was paying homage to how he started in his karate career with his dad.
Almost like a video game character, right? Exactly. He comes out in his...
Exactly. Basically like Ryu from Street Fighter. Yeah. It was awesome. And technically, I'm going to correct you actually, the kimono is actually like a Japanese robe almost. What he came out in was technically called a dogi. Oh, okay. A dogi, yeah. So it's kind of like in jiu-jitsu.
Tell the people, Robbie.
They call it the gi in jiu-jitsu, and they're a bit different. Like the gi, you place it over your body because like an open jacket. Whereas what Georges St. Pierre would wear, technically he would wear a gi because he's obviously a jiu-jitsu black belt, phenomenal at it too. Yeah. But the dogi in Taekwondo or karate is just it's actually like a pullover hoodie almost without the hood. You actually pull it over and put the gi pants on. So they're a bit different and they're a lot.
I think
thinner.
they look cool either way.
Whatever honestly, it's called. They're really cool. Yeah, the kimono is a little more like a lounging thing. Okay. And there are short kimonos which men should not wear because you got to be careful with how you bend over. But I actually went to Georges St. Pierre for Halloween one year. Oh yeah? Yeah. I wore a black gi because that's all I had.
Did you shave your head?
I did not. I wasn't that confident with it.
You wasn't all in.
I wasn't that confident, but I did make my own headband out of felt, and I drew it. I looked up his picture and I drew it. Yeah. Funny, and I wore UFC gloves, and people knew people actually got it, despite the fact that I wasn't bald. Everyone's like, is he GSP? I'm like, yes. Yeah. Yes, I am.
That just shows how big of a sports star GSP really was, right? Yep. I'm not saying mixed martial arts is the most popular sport in the world, but there are certain figures that even if you're not a big fan of fighting, your Georges St. Pierre's, your Conor McGregor's, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of women got into the sport watching Ronda Rousey too, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Wherever she is now in WWE. Yeah. And that's actually very interesting you said that because there has to be a certain star quality about this person, right? Yeah, for even sure. Going back to it, even the guy we have behind us, Muhammad Ali. We were talking about Muhammad Ali right before the podcast. Yeah. Rest in peace. Yeah. His legacy has been cemented, and a lot of people, in my opinion, Conor McGregor is doing
what Muhammad Ali did with his own spin, which is why it works.
Conor McGregor's had his issues too, like outside of the ring.
Absolutely.
But he's still love him or hate him, he's a superstar, a global superstar. He's
a very smart businessman too, because he made it very big.
Absolutely.
But going back to Muhammad Ali, I remember one of the first times I taught kids Muay Thai, there was a 6-year-old kid who like said Muhammad Ali was a famous fighter. Like Muhammad Ali had stopped fighting for years before this kid was even born.
Yeah.
And his name was already like household to a kid who was like 5, 6 years old.
Well, there are certain names in sports in general, right? Like the Muhammad Alis, the Michael Jordans, right? Michael Jordan hasn't played basketball in a long time.
Absolutely, but he got his own Netflix special.
Got his own Netflix special, The Last Dance. Have you watched that?
I have watched it. It's really good.
I loved it. Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah. I liked it. He's
Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
I gotta
Put him on the spot.
I always gotta go with MJ because like one of the first videos I remember watching was actually Space Jam.
We have a friend, Jameson and I, and
just one.
Well,
you guys only have the one friend.
We have a friend who picks LeBron James in the debate.
Oh, interesting.
That's why I'm bringing him up.
See, I find it interesting because like usually if I ask that
question, you know who you are.
Person X, watch yourself.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times, people will pick MJ, but there's and I think there's something about exactly who he is, because me, who wasn't always a basketball fan, already knew who Michael Jordan was.
Yeah.
Right, and there's something about that person where it's like his name transcends the sport.
Yeah. So we've gone on a little bit of a tangent. I want to you've talked about how you got into martial arts in general and your fitness journey. I want to talk about a little bit how I got into it as well.
Yep, we're bringing it back. Perfect.
So for me, I just sort of grew up getting into a lot of fights, like with kids, just little kid fights, right? Like when you're like 6 years old, 10 years old, just scrapping it out on the soccer field, right? Playground brawling. And then one day I just caught a glimpse of a UFC fight. I think my uncle maybe showed me the Chuck Liddell versus Randy Couture. I think that was the very first...
two other names who would definitely surpass the sport for sure, by the way.
I think that was the very first fight that I watched. Maybe the second one. I think it was the second one because Chuck Liddell ended up knocking out Randy in that one. I think that might have been the second one.
Yes.
Anyways... that was the very first one I watched, but then I sort of caught like the UFC Unleashed. Remember UFC Unleashed would come on? Where they just have sort of the classic fights. I caught Anderson Silva versus Chris Lieben.
Oh, man.
And Anderson Silva in his prime, that's what sort of got me into Muay Thai in general, because I just saw how easily he just destroyed Chris Lieben, right? Before that, I used to be like really into basketball. Basketball was really like my first sport love. I really like, I played it every day outside, right?
A little bit of a topic there. Jackson's also 6'3", so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but I think it was just sort of like, I don't know, it was a natural transition for me. As soon as I got into like my first Muay Thai gym, which actually was not pound for pound. It was a place called Lynn's Martial Arts. Yep. I went there for a couple months, but it was just not the right fit for me. It wasn't until I moved to Pound for Pound. One of the owners, his brother, I was actually in the same English class as him in high school.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you guys are the same year.
No, he's a year above.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyways, so he told me, hey, his brother's opening up this Muay Thai gym, I should come check it out, which is exactly what I did, and it was a perfect fit, and haven't looked back since.
Perfect. And for reference, later on, Jackson's family moved to Brampton, and the gym was in Markham, but he still comes there, drives through it, actually, so that's pretty cool.
Loyalty is key. Loyalty is key.
You guys are in the Markham area, check it out, 100%, look it up, Pound for Pound MMA, and if you guys are in Vaughan, there's a new one there, actually. Check out P4B Vaughan on Instagram.
So Robbie, we were talking a little bit about this before the podcast began. I'd like to sort of get you to share your opinion about this.
Yep.
We were talking about just dieting in general, right? We were talking about what your opinion is on the success that you can have dieting if you're just sort of exercising hard but not really eating clean.
Yep, I have a lot of opinions about this, and there's there's a lot to go into it. It's gonna be there's gonna be more topics like this in this podcast as we continue for sure.
And with nutrition in general, there's a lot of counter opinions, right? One professional might have one opinion, one professional might have a different opinion.
Yep.
And we're not saying that our opinion is any better than anybody else's, but we are going to say that you've done your homework, right, Robbie?
God, I hope so.
I've done my homework. We've both also had to cut weight for fights before.
I've lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks one time. That was not pretty, but it was doable.
I've lost 10 pounds in 2 days.
Yep.
Yeah.
By the way, we don't recommend that.
We don't recommend it. It's not healthy. It's not something that you can keep the weight off long term.
Yeah. We were doing it specifically for performance reasons, and in fighting, if you guys don't know, if you don't make weight professionally the day before or amateurs like a couple hours before, you can't fight.
That's right.
Which is why we do it, and the goal is to pack on weight between the weigh-in and the actual fight.
But I'd like to draw our attention back to that question, right? So, is it possible to lose weight or achieve your fitness goals? So those are two different things, right? Achieving your fitness goals and losing weight. Is it possible to do either if you're exercising really hard? Say you work out 2 times a day, 2 hours each time, but you're still eating kind of sloppy. You're maybe having hamburgers for dinner every night. You're not really taking your nutrition into a main focus. So I will say it's possible. The internet's probably gonna like destroy me for this. It's possible, but you also have to consider other factors outside of that. I had a friend, you know him as well, also a fighter. He one time made weight, but he was sick of the like proper weight cutting techniques, and he was basically just training twice a day, like you said, and just eating like a hamburger once a night. But that was the only meal of the day, and he made weight, but this time he was a little more on the chunkier side. Like his body composition wasn't where it used to be in terms of fighting, so he had a little more fat to him. He made the weight, but he looked different, right? Yeah. And going back to your actual question, like I said, it is possible to achieve, like maybe you have a goal weight in your head, but you don't want to like change your nutrition. It's possible, and you might get that goal weight, but your other factors like your body fat percentage, your muscle mass, and overall how you feel is going to be so different because your food is your fuel, right? And I just want to make a point here, and I'll throw it right back to you, but a lot of times, especially with women, I think this is pretty common, they set their goal to be a number on the scale. Right? I'd like to see what your opinion is on just looking at that number as a primary goal.
I actually, in my career as a trainer, I've helped a lot of women change their bodies completely and also up their energy levels. And the first thing I tell them to do, like with every new client, what you do is that you kind of take their body measurements, their waist, hips, whatever. I tell them to actually not focus on the number on the scale. Yeah. Because they might have in their head that they're maybe 200 pounds and they want to be 120.
That's right.
Give or take, just as an example.
200 pounds to 120?
Yeah, I mean, depending, right? Like that's.
And some people set unrealistic goals too, right?
There's a whole thing about goal setting, but it's possible.
Look at if people, so the 200 person that wants to be 120, right? They have this idea in their mind of maybe a celebrity that they want to look like, right? Maybe, okay, take me for example, or take somebody that's out of shape, right? And they look at, well, back in the day, I know my dad was a big fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Who wasn't?
You're not going to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger, that full fitness machine, right? He was Mr. Olympia, right? A number of times.
Couple times.
Yeah. You're not going to get to that result overnight. No. Do you know how many years Arnold Schwarzenegger took to get to that goal?
He was training his whole life for that kind of thing, man. He knew what he wanted to do, and he
had a couple of extra supplements, I think.
I'm sure everyone did back in the day. Yeah. But going back to your question, right? What I do with these women and men in general, I tell them to not worry about the number on the scale because I tell them to envision their like dream body in their head. Sure. The body, not the number. And 9 times out of 10, they get to that goal well before hitting the number on the scale. Like they might like how they look at 150, but they didn't know what that number was because you have to realize the lean muscle you have weighs a lot more than the fat you have, right? So the number on the scale isn't really an indicator of like your body fat versus your lean mass.
And just to add to that, I'd say that the type of exercise that you do is really important, So if you have a specific goal to gain a bunch of muscle, right? You're not going to necessarily want to be doing HIIT every day, high intensity interval training.
No, it's actually the opposite, right? And you got to think about those people, and that's how you make a program for yourself. You do your research first and foremost, or hire a coach, someone who can help you on the way, because that's what they're.
Do you know a good coach, Robbie?
I got a few. Me. What? And you take down those goals and you periodize a program and work for it, right? So if you want to put on muscle, you have to honestly lift weights, and some people prefer that because it's not as intense as HIIT, right? High intense interval training. If someone wants to,
you can make it intense. You can make it.
No, it should be intense.
Yeah.
Right, like people like Jay Cutler, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lou Ferrigno, they made those workouts. You see them working out; they are working out hard.
Yeah.
But they are putting their body.
It's a very, very specialized program, though. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for the beginners, I don't put them through that kind of workout, right? Like bodybuilders at that level, they have like a day for just their chest, a day for their back. If you are a beginner, I always recommend like basic compound movements, bench, squat, deadlift, full body moves.
If you're looking to lose weight, though, you have to get the cardio in.
You do have to get the cardio in, but even for beginners who want to lose weight, they still get those same 3 moves from me because, again, building muscle.
Fundamentals are key.
You build a good base. Also, lifting those weights burns calories as well.
Absolutely.
And the more muscle you have on you, the more calories you burn at rest.
It's just like the fundamentals in mixed martial arts, right? The jab cross, the swing kick, these are all fundamentals, right? You have to master the basics before you start throwing spinning back kicks.
Exactly. And it goes down to everything. You got to crawl before you can walk. You got to walk before you can run.
Yeah.
You got to start at the base, build the fundamentals, because I always tell my clients, like, once you learn how to like flex your muscle, flex your chest in that bench press, flex your legs on that squat. Once we do more advanced moves, like you master those 3 moves and start doing the kettlebell swing, you know exactly how to work certain muscles, and you know how to optimize
that mind-muscle connection.
Exactly,
right? Yeah.
Optimizing that workout.
Yeah.
And that's how you get the results, right? Building that mind-muscle connection. And back to Arnold, what was he famous for? Talking about mind-muscle connection. Also talking about how the pump was like coming. But either way, other than that, Arnold was pretty brilliant, except for how he uses words.
You got to focus on the pump.
The pump coming. I feel like I'm coming all the time.
Whoa, Robbie, whoa.
I watched that and I was like, I had to rewatch it like 2 times. Like, did he really just say that?
Yeah.
Oh, it made me laugh.
So I'd like to sort of switch topics a little bit. This is a complete change of topics, but I'd like to get your opinion on some of the UFC fights coming up. We have Khabib fighting Justin Gaethje, Nurmagomedov.
I'm pumped for that fight because it's just a complete opposite of two.
For those of you who don't know, Khabib Nurmagomedov, he's a Dagestani guy. He's the current lightweight champion of the UFC. Justin Gaethje is the current interim champion, I think, right?
He beat Tony Ferguson in a huge upset.
Tony Ferguson is otherwise known as the Boogeyman. He's not known as the Boogeyman for any soft reasons. This guy is a legit killer.
They call him the Boogeyman, also El Kukui.
El Kukui.
Yeah, I think I don't know what language that's from, but I think it basically means he's cuckoo. For Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, he's a little bit out there, but his training methods work, man.
He got where he is for a reason. Yeah. And this fight between Khabib and Justin, it's going to be crazy because Justin just
I think that's not this weekend, but the weekend after,
end of October. Last weekend of October.
Oh, last weekend of October, okay.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what day, but...
Mark your calendars.
I'm looking forward to it a lot, and to back on that, recently I haven't been looking forward to a lot of UFC fights because like no one's really caught my attention.
Yeah.
And going back to like the star quality of certain fighters and how certain things worked, which is why Khabib blows my mind because he's a quiet guy, doesn't say much, but he has that thing you can't really like.
Well, I think it really kicked in after that fight with Conor McGregor, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody really knew who Khabib was until that fight. The diehards, the really strict fans knew who Khabib was, and they knew that Conor was in for the biggest challenge of his life.
The UFC also is really good at selling fights too, because and Khabib has earned that title because you don't get to be 29-0 in MMA for not being crap, because he is good. He takes the best guys, kicks the crap out of them, and talks to them while he's beating the crap out of them, telling you should just give up, man. You should just give up. This is over. You know this is over.
Yeah.
Imagine what that does to your mental state too. While you're getting punched in the face, and someone's like,
it's got to be so demoralizing,
like,
right?
man, you gotta
somebody
stop.
just on top of you, just smashing your face in and saying, "Please give up. I don't want to hurt you anymore."
Just basically saying like, I'm better than you.
Yeah.
You know this. Yeah. I know this. Save yourself.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Save yourself the beating and just give up.
Yeah. So, but what do you make of that Justin Gaethje fight?
I think Justin has.
Do you think he has a chance?
If he lands his shots, but that's that's the same thing people said about Tony, who hasn't fought him yet. Same thing said about Conor, and Khabib shut them all up because not only did Khabib almost knock Conor out with that big swinging right, because like proving that he can also strike.
Yeah, I think Conor was a little bit off of his game that night.
Probably, but he let his fame probably get to his head, which is it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's happened to the best of the best.
Yeah.
But I think what Khabib was really good at is just taking his game plan, and that's all about your mental conditioning as well.
Yeah.
Sticking to his game plan, what he's good at, because what does he do? He puts you on your back, locks you up, takes the best jiu-jitsu guys out there.
Even if he misses that first takedown, too. He doesn't need that first takedown.
He's going to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to get that takedown.
Just follow-up wrestling. He misses the first takedown. He keeps fighting for it, right? Until you're on your ass.
He's definitely making Russian Sambo, like, seriously much more famous than it used to be. Because I love jiu-jitsu, and I don't like how Khabib kind of hates on jiu-jitsu. Like he says, like he has a shirt that says if Sambo was easy, it'd be called jiu-jitsu. Yeah. From personal experience as a Muay Thai guy, jiu-jitsu is super hard. I am not good at it.
Yeah.
So I don't really like that, but I gotta respect his skill and his ability to fight that takedown and keep it. And I can.
So who are you picking then? Who are you picking? Khabib or Justin?
I'm gonna go with Khabib.
You're going with Khabib, eh?
I love Justin. I love his style because he's like...
Just because this is two friends fighting, I'm going to go with Justin Gaethje.
Yeah, I think you're...
Not just for that reason, but I actually do think that Justin Gaethje has a chance in that fight.
I think he has a chance to make it a really good fight.
I think he has a very good chance. If you go back and watch that Tony Ferguson fight, he destroyed Tony Ferguson.
He did.
Tony Ferguson's not an easy fight for anyone.
I was mind blown because I didn't put money down, but like in my head I was like, I'm betting on Tony.
I thought Tony was going to win that fight too, but Justin Gaethje, he's got good takedown defense, right? Khabib's looking for the takedown. Justin Gaethje has better striking than Khabib. No doubt about it.
For sure.
No doubt about it. And he's got power too.
He definitely hits harder than Khabib will definitely
That's right. You don't think that he's going to start throwing those calf kicks too?
Most likely, yes.
So the calf kick is actually a fairly novel, fairly new technique in mixed martial arts, right?
There was really no rule against it. There is rules against it in Muay Thai and kickboxing, like no kicking below the knee. Yeah. But there's no rule against it in MMA, and people started doing it, and there was like...
It's just sort of underutilized, right? People always thought you got to kick the thigh, right? Kick right above the knee. That'll do the most damage.
Yep.
And nobody really thought, hey, let's try to attack that calf.
Yep. I think the first time I saw someone do that, I can't remember who it was, but he was fighting Mark Hunt. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it might have been Bigfoot Silva, who is just a human gorilla. Yeah. He's retired now. But that's the first time I saw it.
Is he? I think he's fighting in bare knuckle, isn't he?
Oh my god.
I think he is.
He's gonna end up like Muhammad Ali in his later years if he keeps doing that. Oh, that's dangerous. I don't like bare knuckle. I think it's just dumb. I mean,
it's a little excessive, but it's sort of a long-standing tradition in a lot of, I know, like Irish culture.
I was gonna say Irish culture. Yeah, it's huge. I think there's some documentaries on it you can watch.
Yeah. Knuckle, I think, is a good one.
Probably. That's on Netflix, right?
I don't know.
You can probably find everything on YouTube these days.
You can find everything.
But I think I don't personally watch it because it just makes me uncomfortable. Like I always tell I have some clients who are like women around our age. We're also in our mid-20s. Just a little advice on that. I've got some female clients around our age who deal with some creepy guys around their university campus. So as a trainer, I teach them how to get in better shape. But if they want to, I teach them how to throw some punches, throw some hands, some elbows, for some defense. It's helpful. My number one advice if they're caught in trouble, and this goes to my male students as well. Never punch someone in the face. You're likely to break your hand, and then you're just screwed for a bit, right?
Yeah. It's not like you see in the movies, everybody, right?
No, you might get a bruised hand. You might not break your hand, but there's a good chance because the bones in the skull.
That's why professional fighters always wrap their hands.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, says the person who never wraps his hands when we train.
I still wear gloves.
You wear gloves. Never wrap your hands. I always tell
Fighting them, again, eh, Robbie?
The whole point of the podcast. I always tell my clients, if they're ever caught in that situation, well, I always tell them try to avoid that situation, but sometimes you can't. I always tell them elbows first.
Yeah.
If you have to go with someone in the face,
Elbow's a whole lot stronger than your fist, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, disclaimer, we are not recommending everyone go out and fight with elbows in the streets of Toronto or something like that. We're just saying, if the situation is presenting itself onto you, I always recommend throwing an elbow or a really good kick to the thigh or calf first.
Or to the family jewels.
Or to the family, hey, I spent years in a jiu-jitsu club where it was like wrist locks, joint locks. It was pure self-defense. How does a woman who's 4'9" deal with someone our size?
Absolutely.
The motto was, if it
Fight
works,
dirty.
if it works,
it works.
If it works, use it.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And, like, we train for sport, which is awesome, but in the end of the day, like, the vast majority of people are gonna train for self-defense.
Yeah.
Right. And I always recommend, like, hey, you can throw punches all day on these pads and bags. If it comes down to it, get good at those elbows.
For sure.
And knees.
Absolutely.
Knees are crucial.
Absolutely. So Robbie, we're coming to about the end of our very first podcast, right?
Yep.
So we are actually looking to start our very first podcast segment. It's called "What Are You Fighting For?"
Yep.
Right. So this segment's going to be, we're going to do this every week at the end of the podcast, and we're going to pinpoint something that we feel particularly strongly about. Something that we want to emphasize, something we want to get off our chest, something that we're looking to fight for, something that we're looking to argue for. Would you like to start?
I will, actually. Thank you. On top of starting this podcast today, I also started my own business. My last name is Moss, so it's called Moss Fitness because I'm very uncreative. But it's my own online training app where you can subscribe and you get workouts every day. There's bodyweight workouts, there is half an hour workouts that'll get you sweaty half the time, and there's a full gym workout where it's like weight training plus conditioning for those people who want to build like a good body but also get stronger and build a better like work engine, as I say.
For sure.
So I'm gonna fight this week and probably the rest of my life. I'm gonna fight for that, building it up, and getting that business off the ground. I started during COVID because, well, I had time. I had a lot of time, and I wanted to do it for a while. I had a lot of time. So this week, I won't say this every week, obviously, but this week I'm going to fight for putting in more hours towards building up my business.
Awesome.
And Jackson, how about you? What are you fighting for?
My main idea today is really fighting for the health of this podcast. Going forward, I'm looking to really try to grow this podcast.
Yep.
We started this just as a fun thing to do as friends. We had a little bit of spare time. Why not just record one of our daily conversations, right?
Exactly.
So hopefully we can keep recording this podcast, make it bigger as time goes by.
And hopefully we can inspire people to take a new step in their health and fitness journey.
For sure.
Or even just educate them on certain things maybe they didn't know. Because like we said, not to brag
educate
anymore,
and entertain.
Educate and entertain, but we are well versed in the world of fitness and health, among other things. And like we said, if you guys have any questions, you can reach out to us. Speaking of which, Jackson, where can people find you on social media?
People can find me on Instagram at Jackson, Jackson. Khoury is my last name, Khouri. Robbie, how about yourself? Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram and Facebook. It's just Robbie Moss Fitness, all one word. And Robbie with a Y, by the way. ROBBYMOSS Fitness. I also have another one called Moss Fitness Inc. because I incorporated it, obviously.
And we're going to be starting an Instagram page for this particular podcast coming soon.
Yes.
Okay, so keep your ears peeled for that one.
For 2FriendsFighting on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that'll be, do I use the number or the word for two?
Probably, we'll think about it.
We'll figure that out. Either
Episode 1 pilot, right? We haven't figured that out
Look
yet.
out for either number 2 Friends Fighting or TWO Friends Fighting. Look out for either one of those. Obviously, give us a follow. We'll be promoting that as well.
For sure. Any last thoughts, Robbie? Do you have fun?
I had a good time, actually.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to start a podcast for a while and just have a fun conversation. I'm glad it's with you. Like I said, honestly, I would put Jackson as one of my best friends because I've known him for years, and I've had the pleasure of training with him, seeing him grow, and likewise with him and me. Like, he taught me a lot. We've cornered each other in different fights, as well as other fighters together. So it's been good, and I think we have a lot of really good opinions to put out there, whether it's advice or whatever else. Did you have fun, Jackson?
I had a great time. And I just want to say to everybody out there, keep fighting with your friends. Okay, it makes for a fun, entertaining time, right?
It makes for a good entertaining time, and one of my favorite quotes is, "Adversity builds the best warriors." So, fighting with your friends. If they don't challenge you, they won't change you.
Yeah, I think we'll end it at that. Thanks everybody for episode 1. I'm Jackson.
I'm Robbie, guys. Thank you so much.
This is 2 Friends Fighting.